People like you a lot more than you think they do. This is not just some sort of pep talk. This is based on some really robust research that was conducted by some smart people. Erica Boothby from Cornell and Margaret Clark from Yale. They headed up this research that was done across Yale, Cornell, Harvard, and the University of Essex. And their results were published in Psychological Science in 2018. And they discovered something that they call the liking gap. The liking gap is the difference between how much a person likes you and how much you think they like you. And they found that this gap is broad, very consistent, and very reliably there. To discover the liking gap, they did, as I said, some really robust research. They got two people in a room for 5 minutes each, and they witnessed the conversation. Then they took the people away to separate rooms, and they said, "How much do you think they like you?" And the participants were very reliably, they'd say things like, I messed up. I spoke too much. I fumbled my words. I don't know. They probably don't really like me very much." Then they'd say, "What do you think of them?" They'd say, "Yeah, I liked them actually. They were fine. They were good." Meanwhile, in the other room, the other person is saying the same thing. "Oh, I don't know if I really came across quite right, but I like them." The liking gap. Now, a 5-minute conversation under lab conditions, that's questionable. So these researchers determined to develop a consistent understanding. They said, all right, well, let's fiddle with the timing of this. So then they observed multiple 2-people conversations that lasted for 2 minutes up to 45 minutes. And they found that despite the variation in timing, the outcomes were all the same. Very, very consistent. The liking gap was always there. They then said, all right, well, let's just put it out in the real world, and let's do this. So they got dorm mates that were living on campus together, and they found that the liking gap could last for months. And there was a particular moment in time or a particular event that took place where the liking gap collapsed. So these dorm mates, now this is based on the American system, which I don't fully understand, but I'm led to believe that dorm mates come together in September of a year, and they're sort of committed for a 12-month term. From September all the way until May the following year, 8 months later, these two people could have the liking gap present where they just weren't quite sure if the other person liked them. They liked them, but I don't know if they liked me. But in May, these two people had to come together and have a conversation about, hey, look, I don't know, like like we could do this again for the next 12 months if you wanted. I mean, no pressure. Like I'm just saying, oh yeah, I'd love to. That sounds great. This has been really fun. I'd love to do that. Oh. And then the liking gap collapsed because they had a meaningful conversation about the status of the relationship. That's interesting. In all of this research that they did, they discovered 2 critical factors that were taking place that gave rise to the liking gap so consistently. The first one is our self-critical nature. We tend to be very self-critical of the way that we conduct ourselves in social situations. And then we project our own thoughts of ourselves onto the other person, where we start to make assumptions about the way they thought about us based on how we feel about us. And in almost all cases, it's incorrect. The other thing that these researchers observed was they're a third party to these conversations or these relationships that are going on, and they're watching them. They're watching these people interact, and they're like, yeah, they're being nice to each other. There are clear signals of liking from one person to the other and in exchange. And yet, when they interviewed the people that were part of the conversation, they found that they completely missed those signals, and they found out why. Because the people in the conversation, or indeed in the relationship, weren't paying attention to the other person. They were making all sorts of assumptions about that person, but that they were so preoccupied with what they were thinking that they weren't even listening to the other person. They were too busy thinking about what they were going to say next, rather than sitting back and actually listening to the other person. I think all of us can think of a time when we've caught up with someone and we've come away from the coffee or the work meeting or just the friendly conversation and thought, damn, I just was so stupid. And we just assume that the other person feels the same way about us. So often that's massively incorrect. And there are costs to that sort of behavior. The first one, which seems, I guess, fairly obvious, and that is we miss out on potential relationships. If we feel like the other person doesn't like us, we're very reluctant to follow up and say, let's do that again. And so we've got two people playing a game of social chicken. No, I'm not going to reach out. I don't think they want to hear from me. And the other person's doing exactly the same thing. So those potential relationships that are the fruit and the essence and the substance of life just go missing because we just assume that we know how they're feeling and we don't. If we miss relationships in a social circumstance, that's costly. But we can also miss them in a professional situation where we might just avoid what could otherwise have been a great mentoring relationship. We're very unlikely to speak up in meetings if we just assume that people don't like us, don't want to hear from us, and we're not going to take an opportunity to present to a group because, of course, we don't think that they necessarily want to hear from us. And this research was published in 2018, but then there was a follow-up research done by Harvard, and they published that in 2022, and they found that the liking gap concept followed through into work, and they saw evidence of it in work teams and small groups. If you think people at work don't like you, you also think that your performance at work is substandard. And if you think your performance at work is substandard, you're never going to ask for anything. You're not going to ask for a raise or a promotion or more responsibility because you're just operating on an assumption that you're not liked and therefore you're not performing. That's costly. So what do you do? Well, this is the fun, this is fun. This is fun. And it's a remedy. It's a real remedy, but it's also a lot of fun. Just assume that they do like you because it's safe. You're most likely going to be right. And just imagine if you just assume, you go into every relationship, every new relationship, and rather than assuming that you just assume that they do like you. You're going to sit back, relax, just let your guard down, you'll tell a joke, and ironically, you'll become even more likable. Not to mention, you'll give the other person permission to relax as well. And you'll most likely get to understand their true character. So just assume that they like you. How much more fun is that than the social anxiety that we bring to a conversation where we just assume that they don't like us? Also, understand that your self-criticism is not an accurate reflection of their thoughts of you. Just abandon those beliefs because they're largely untrue. Also, follow up first. Go for a coffee, catch up with someone, walk back, get in your car, grab your phone, punch out a text and say, hey, Bob, that was great. Let's do it again next Friday. Meanwhile, Bob's sitting in his car, sees his phone buzz, gets the message and he goes, oh, yes. Bob's delighted because you've annihilated all the negative perceptions that he might have had of you. So follow up first. And finally, we've published a lot of material on this because we know that this is just such a burden on relationships. And let me put it to you like this, and I'm speaking to you. You don't listen. You haven't taken the time to foster the delicate, lost art of listening. And as a consequence, in your new interactions, because you're just so occupied by what you're going to say next, how you look, the words that you're using, you're not even listening to them. And as a consequence, there can never be any authentic communication. So listen and see the signals. They're telling you through their body language, their verbal language, they do like you. And you'll have a much better time in conversations if you realize that they do. And I think that this content here is just really, really interesting. And there's so much more in this work that I haven't had the chance to share with you in this video, but we have produced this free downloadable PDF, which is beautifully formatted. It looks great. Download this because I was thinking about this earlier. If you want to provide your team at work with a massive morale boost, which is real and authentic and based in, robust research, print out 400 copies of this PDF, take it to work and just give it to everyone. And notice the quality of all of your communication just go up 13 levels. So guys, click on the link below, get the PDF, have a read through it, and if you think it's worth it, share it with your friends and your work colleagues and everyone else that you know. Hey, my name's Wayne. I'm the founder of Learn Well Books. We are an international best-selling book publishing house, and we also produce Low TED. We're learning one thing every day because we know that if you want to be interesting, you've got to stay interested. Guys, thank you for watching. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. I will see you tomorrow.